Hello together. My name is Leon and thanks for joining our third Q&A. Today I'm excited to have Peter Karlsson from FlowCine with us to introduce their new stabilizer arms, the xARM Neo and Neo Lite. We will go over the key features, differences, and how these new arms can improve your setups. Feel free to drop your questions in the chat or they're just live here via camera. So, and I will say, everybody can hear me? We get audio, so you can also put the cameras on so I see when you have questions or something.
Yeah, I hope everyone can hear me as well.
So, perfect. Thank you. Okay, Peter, great to
Perfect.
have you here.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit more about the new arms.
Yeah, so I guess most of you are like familiar with the older or current xARM. And we started working on the new xARM Neo and Neo Air roughly 3 years ago. And our goal was mostly to try to improve everything as far as we could. And the focus was make it lighter, make it more rigid, and make it more easy to use in operation, saving time on set. We did have quite a bit of feedback with a previous xARM changing spring cores, where people were like between two spring cores and they always wanted to be in the sweet spot range and they have to like swap out the spring cores every time they have a lens change, etc. So that was like a big thing for us to like try to solve in the best way possible. And we came up with a really nice solution. At the same time, we wanted to improve rigidity because we have a lot of users. We expected more users to go with like lower payloads over time, but it's all changed like with the Trinity and stuff. A lot of operators right now are like 30 kilo and up. So we were in the range where the previous xARM weren't really built for that kind of payload. Our top range were 29 kilo, but then we have like, okay, the springs can lift more. So we can build stronger springs, but the arm wasn't really designed for 35 kilo payload. So did I drop my audio?
No, I'll get that.
Okay, yeah, I saw you talking.
But
yeah,
it's performing really good. So I'm using the xARM from beginning. So I think I have the serial number 31. So
yeah,
and I'm using it often. So most of my setups are over 30 kg. So I'm Trinity operator. So it's not best, but I have the gray ones and the orange ones are for me the best cores that I have in my xARMs.
Yeah. So and we're also seeing a lot of people not like having the arm like in a V pose or L pose. They go javelin, they go with a straight arm, putting a lot of strain on the arm. So we had really focused on beefing up crucial part to better provide what's needed these days for operators using these heavy rigs that aren't traditional Steadicam sleds, but more like the Trinity and etc. So those things has been like the key points when we start working on a new arm, and we also, of course, wanted to get rid of like any potential problem we had on the previous arm that we had like one or two operators like having issues with. We immediately like redesigned those kind of things. So we didn't like implement something that was working okay but not perfect in the new arm. We like redesigned those as well. So we put a lot of thought in the new arm.
Sounds interesting. Yeah, sounds really good.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I had no chance to test it yet. So I'm really
Yeah.
curious. Next week in London, so I'm at the
Well,
BSC. So I'm really curious to test it finally
yeah.
live. So
We would like to have arms to send around, but going with the Neo Air with the carbon fiber arm, that has been very difficult for us to
absolutely.
handle
Can
in
imagine,
today's economy, because the price prototyping has been it's been such a
Can
headache.
imagine, yeah. Can
Yeah.
imagine.
So the few carbon fiber arms we have currently that are not like production molded, they're
So
more or
that's
less
my first question now. So
Yeah.
let's go to the first question. So I received some questions in advance from some operators. So the first question is, the Neolite has a special housing material. How durable is it in terms of impact resistance, exposure to sunlight, and salt?
Okay. Yeah. So sorry. First of all, we call it the Neo Air. So it's not a light arm, because it has the same performance as the aluminium version. So the lift range is the same. It's just a lighter air feeling to it. So the Neo Air. So the difference between the ordinary Neo and the Neo Air is the main bone structure, which is made of a special carbon fiber we've been working on. And in terms of exposure for, let's say, salt, like that's a big issue we have with anodizing. We've seen it on the previous xARM. We can see immediately where the operator rests their arm.
Yeah.
Like there's always pitting going on in the anodizing that is through. So when we went with the carbon fiber option, we looked at immediately when we started working with the carbon fiber, we immediately start looking at coating options. So I've been trying out tons of different coatings, and in the end, we ended up with a ceramic coating. It's commercially available. It's called Cerakote, and we use the Cerakote Elite series. Mostly used for military, like weapon. They coat a lot of Cerakote with in the weapon industry. The good thing is it's very resistant to like sweat, etc. It has hydrophobic properties, which means a lot of like moisture just drops off. So you don't need like wipe it and like have moisture sticking to the surface as you would on the aluminium version. So it's a very nice coating we have.
So it's interesting. It looks not like carbon. So that was also my first idea when I saw the picture. So it was,
yes,
it's not carbon. It's different.
Yeah.
But you say now it's military standard grade, so it looks like a weapon or something, the weapon material. So military grade. Yeah.
We do have like a lot of people buying into carbon fiber. They want it to look as carbon fiber. But in the end, we opted for a better coating in this case, and the ones are regular, like twin weave carbon fiber look. Sorry, this is what it's gonna be, because it's a better coating. It's very like scratch resistant. It's UV durability. It's super stable. So the good thing about the ceramic coating compared to like anodizing is that we actually have lab scientific data backing up the properties of this, because it's calibrated, and it's like, it doesn't matter where in the world you apply it, it's the same. The downside is very expensive, as with everything. Yeah. So
we have some new guys here in. So if somebody has a question, so feel free. So turn your camera on and ask.
or
put it in
use
the chat,
I guess. Yes. So yeah, we can discuss a little bit more about the difference between the carbon and the aluminium as well.
Absolutely.
Except the fact that the carbon fiber is much lighter than the aluminium. The material itself, the way it's molded with the layup, the carbon fiber is stiffer than the aluminium one. Okay. So the carbon fiber, even though it's lighter, it actually performs a tiny bit better than the aluminium one in higher payloads. So the material is 15% stiffer than the aluminium when we've done our testing in different, like all different kind of like ways that the sled is distributed in different places and measure it. So it holds up very well in all kind of like usage. So
can you tell us a little bit how is the weight difference now between the old xARM, the new xARM Neo, and the xARM Neo Air? So the steps, the weight steps between the arms.
Yes. So let's pick up this one. So this is the older or previous version. The difference in weight is depending on what kind of like spring core you're using. If you're using the lightest one compared to the heaviest one, I think the difference is up to 400 gram. Mm-hmm. If you compare the lightest teal one we have compared to like the purple, the strongest one. Mm-hmm. So it's quite a substantial difference in weight.
So we see now, so orange. I'm using mostly the orange coats with most of my settings.
So then you're probably at like 5.2 kilo. Mm-hmm. It also depends on the socket block.
Front mount or back mount.
Front socket block is always heavier than back mounted because you have more mechanism. You have the spring, you have stuff like that going on. So front mounted is always a little bit heavier than the back mounted. The previous back mount we had was solid stainless steel altogether. We trimmed.
So you say the previous one was about 5.2 with the orange.
Yes, something like that. It's the lowest configuration you could build with it like this is probably like 4.9, and then it went up to 5.2, 5.3.
So let's see, 5 kgs is the previous one. So the middle. Somewhere.
Yeah, and if we look at the xARM Neo, we're right under 4 kilo for this one. Even with like the front socket block. So we pretty much say 20% in total weights just by the design. Even though this is 4 times as strong in torque, like in torque flex compared to the older one. So it's much stronger, but it's also quite a bit like lighter as well.
Yeah, that's difference carrying a big battery or not. So.
Yeah, exactly. And with the carbon fiber one, we trim off half kilo more, so we're down to 3.5. Wow. So and that feels it feels quite different in when you pick it up. So. We always, the few demos we've done so far, operators have been like picking up the carbon fiber, the Neo Air, and the aluminium, the ordinary Neo, and 80% went with the carbon fiber one for those who put in a pre-order. Because it's one thing looking at the specs and like, okay, it weighs this and that, but once you pick it up, it has a very different feeling.
Yeah, and sometimes 100 grams can be a big difference, especially for Trinity operators. So when you're operating Trinity, sometimes a little bracket can be too much.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's same as audio. So sometimes only one decibel will be louder than other.
Yeah.
So let's go to the next question from the did we get via email? So from the photos and images I've seen so far, the arm appears to be slightly longer than the original xARM, meaning the connection between the two segments seems to be positioned further away from the body. Is that correct?
Well, the arm itself is slightly longer, but it seems like the question is about the distance from the pivot point to the.
No, I think when he's operating, the joint showing away from the body. So I think the idea. I think that this is a Steadicam operator question. So it's the how close I can get to tight spaces or doors. Yeah, this position.
Okay. Yeah, it mostly. I mean, it mostly depends on how the arm folds. Yes, the xARM Neo is, if you like, lay it flat, it's longer. I think the previous xARM is with the back mount. It's altogether around 800 millimeter, and with the front socket block, with its folded position 45 degree with a spring, it's like 805 millimeter. It's a little bit different with the Neo. The total length will be 840 millimeter with the back socket block, and 875 millimeter with the front socket block.
Okay, but that means also you have a bigger boom range, or?
You have a bigger boom range, but also the Neo is not as wide.
Oh, yes.
That's so even though it's longer, it can also be it's not as wide. So the previous xARM was like 72 millimeter in width. If you measure like the very outmost parts, I don't know if it's visible.
Yeah.
The rubber bumpers itself, the spacing here is like 72 millimeter. On the Neo, it's 61 millimeter, and we don't have anything sticking out at all on these. It's all built in.
That's the difference,
in the link bracket. So it folds very nicely. We checked, and if you're a pro user, it's exactly the same width as a pro arm. But we didn't like realize it until we were done, but we laid them like side by side, and it has exact same width. Maybe it's a few hundreds millimeter difference, but it's the same width like a pro.
Yes.
But ours is like way more boom range. So yeah.
I think the next question you have already answered. So are the springs different from the previous version? Yes, of course. And do they need to be replaced after some time?
Yes and no. It depends a little bit on how you're using it. I can tell the difference between the previous spring cores. The previous spring cores we had a pre-tension thing. So they had like shafts going inside, keeping a little bit of tension all the time. in order to make it easy to like swap them out, etc. That's not the case on the new arm. We have no pre-tension inside the actual spring core, so the springs are quite like open that way. All the pre-tensioning happens on the arm itself. So that's a little bit different. We use the same material. We use it in a different configuration, but the concept is pretty much the same. The feeling, if you're ever tried previous xARM, you're gonna like notice similarities in like the behavior of the spring itself, because it's different compared to like other springs in metal, etc. Maintenance wise, like how long does the rubber last? I would say the rubber theoretically should last at least 15 years. Given the specifications we have from our manufacturer with storage time and curing and stuff, they should last like 15 years. But it also has a little bit on how much tension you have on them. Like if you store them at max tension for several years, yes, they're gonna drop in performance. If you have maybe just like let them out in the sun for a very long extensive period, they're gonna have a different like curing time. So it's hard to say exactly how long they will live, but 15 years is how long they should at least last, because they kind of like, we store them at our facility for like 5 years, because they are like aging quite intensively in the beginning. The first 2 years they like kind of drop, and then nothing happens for a long period of time, and that's when we like stop.
But that means also you don't have more to use the silicon milk that we have on the old arm.
Yes, the 303 aerospace fluid is mostly to prevent any kind of like cracking on the surface happening. Like it's more like a lubrication for like you use grease on a screw or a bearing or whatever. It's pretty much to protect the surface, not from getting like brittle and change the behavior. So yes, you do apply the fluid every like 3-6 months, as you done previously. What we do differently with the Neo is we supply an extra pair of spring cores as well. So you always gonna have a backup if anything ever happens. And since they are not like being used, they're just being stored, they're just gonna like, even if you pick them up after 3 years, they're gonna have like the same performance as this one had when they are new.
How easy it's replaceable by itself, or?
It's very easy to replace. Pretty much you unwind the tension screw on one end, and the spring will hook out from the adjustment bracket over here. And then you have 2 more screws on either side of the spring cores. Just undo and replace it, and it's done.
Okay.
So
it's done in 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So.
Yeah. It takes a longer time than replacing spring cores on the previous arm, but it's definitely doable within 10 minutes.
Perfect.
I can do a little bit like show how it's done later in the Q&A if you want. I don't mind.
Why not? Yeah.
It's going to be a little bit noisy. But definitely I can show how the sprinkler looks, etc. No problem.
So my question is now how the tuning works.
Yeah. So to be able to show the tuning, I'll think it's best if I put the vest on and I bring a sled on and I show how the tuning works.
Wait a second, we have a long question here.
I have a long question, okay.
Yeah, from Charlie. Hi everyone. I also had a few questions. First, indeed, on photos, I noticed that the length of the arm sticking towards away from the operator on, yeah, so that was the same question as mine. So you can repeat it again, Libby, quickly. So the
the new Neo is longer in total length than the previous xARM, roughly 40 to 80 millimeter in total, depending on the socket block you're using. It's shorter with a back socket block than the front one. On the other hand, the front socket block is folded with a spring. So
it's a good point. The question is on extreme wide lenses, in low mode, even the xARM joint could come into the frame in narrow spaces. So that's sometimes when you're going really tight.
It also a little bit
but the arm is not so tall.
The Neo has the Neo has a much narrower profile, especially in the front towards the sled. So you don't have that much blocking in the front of the arm as you had with the previous one. So if we like check total height from one side to the other, the previous one was pretty uniformal. I will put one arm down. So this one is pretty uniform, where the highest point and the lowest is like 140 millimeter, pretty much straight across. On the Neo, the highest point will be at the tension, the adjustment bracket, and that's 150 millimeter, 152 on the latest one. But that's the highest point. Other than that, just getting like more and more narrow. So they're quite different in how they are perceived as an operator when you're actually wearing the arm, in how much like blocking you have from the arm itself. Also, the link bracket between it's much more narrow than on the previous one, so it doesn't build as much volume when it folds. So the geometry is quite different.
So the second question from Charlie is, as an xARM user, I will always want the arm to sit close to the sweet spot at close to max tension. How does the xARM Neo FlowCine at only one core? For example, at around 22 kg payload, with the arm will the arm feel springier than at 30 kgs compared to a maxed out xARM blue core?
Yeah, the geometry wise, it's a little bit different compared to the previous xARM. On the previous xARM, with how the springs worked, you always went up at the max setting of each spring core. You have a more fine linear action. This one is a little bit counterintuitive, where you have a more linear performance at the lower range because of the angle of the spring sits, and it gets a little bit more springy towards the heavier payloads. So we tuned this one to be, you have the like best sweet spot, I would say around 25 kilos. And then it like changes a little bit outside of that. How much? That's pretty much something you have to like try out yourself and experience. Like, so it's like hard to make some kind of like graph over it, really.
But Charlie's happy with the answer. Thank you for the answers. Can't wait to try it out. So
Yeah. so
Thank you, Charlie.
yeah. Yeah, it's we just try to like optimize it as much as we could across the board to make it easy and have the same performance all across, more or less.
Nice, nice. So the next question is from my side. Will be there? No, sorry.
Was it the tuning bit?
Yeah, the tuning. Yeah.
Should we do the tuning bit?
Yeah.
Let me just put the vest on. Since I already prepared. So I hope this will be visible.
Yeah, that looks good.
If not, let me know, and I'll try to reposition myself a little bit. So you don't do any tuning without the sled. Like previous ARM with the Allen key, it would be quicker to do it if you know you had to like tension it up all the way, etc. That's not really needed on the new one. You can always increase the tension, the payload in this position when the bones are pointing upwards. So you can always add force because you have a lot of force in the adjustment bracket itself shooting upwards. Decreasing the tension though is hard because it gets very tricky, and then you're dependent on the angle on the bones themselves. So I will just give a short illustration. Okay. So tuning everything. Now it's already like tune a bit, but pretty much if you're in horizontal position or 45 degrees, you have a sweet spot where you can add tension and you can immediately tell what's going on here. So now I added maybe 2 kilos. It's quite easy.
Wow. That was just 1/4 turn, or?
Yes. We are on the one we're shipping. It's going to be a little bit more fine-tuned than this one by 20%, but it's quite reactive in tuning wise. Nice. Yeah. So now
so you
I already made
the turn 5 minutes.
Exactly. And you have quite a big range here between the min and max. It's a 20 kilo range, so every turn does quite a bit. So decreasing the tension, you have to put the arm in like horizontal position because then the force is just like perpendicular to the adjustment. So from here, it's very easy for me to like down tune it. If you're like boom down all the way, you won't be able to turn this. You won't be able to turn this at the highest position either, but you will immediately know when you hit the sweet spot, just booming, and so then you're like, okay,
you feel
yeah, then it's like super easy. So tuning wise, this really speeds up the workflow quite a bit compared to the previous one, especially if you want to like fine tune the 2 sections. So if I boom down, I don't know if it's visible, and I see, okay, this is a little bit stronger than this one. I just like tune it, and there we go. So it's like very reactive and very easy to tune with like lens changes, camera swap, whatever. It just goes in I would say it just takes seconds, basically, going from like a 5 kilo change, for example. It's just like 10 turns.
That's
and
nice.
that's it. Yeah. So that's something that works really, really well right now.
So another question is there a possibility to test to ARM in Dubai or region?
Yes and no. We are I would say like this: if there's enough interest in a certain region and operators are willing to help us make this happen, then for sure, yes.
Yeah.
It will be mostly me that goes around demonstrating the arms in the beginning until there's more like knowledge about how everything works. And I don't have like endless time because I'm mostly in on the engineering side. But yes, I can go down and be able to hold demonstration for like a day or two if there's enough interest. So I would suggest if someone wants really to try the ARM and have a community of local operators also interested, just send us an email and we can make it happen, I'm sure.
So you can put it also, you can put questions also in the forum or in here or something
yes,
like that. So
because
we'll provide the emails to FlowCine and then to you guys.
Yeah, I know for a fact we won't do a lot of trade shows. And I think a majority of similar companies like ours are pretty much saying the same thing. At times like this, no one really can afford going to these trade shows. They cost like a fortune. So we rather go to like specific cities and do this kind of workshops. But we need like a facility, like a rental house maybe, and if someone has a sled and a camera, then we're pretty much set to go. So yes, we can make it happen.
That will not be a problem, yeah. So then interest is there. So
yes.
So one question from James, back to the tuning. Hi, General, do you want to set the arm to float at 90 degrees, or is there a slight variation?
I would say it's operator depending. We do, because our boom range, we have a little bit more boom range on the upside than downside. So we have more range on the top side than down. That also makes the springs to actually have you need a little bit more force pushing down than lift.
So the upper segment, it's slightly...
The upper side is very like, you have a really like resistance there. There's like so little going on. You can like lift it with nothing. So if you're an operator that feels like, I don't like, I need to push down more than lifting up, what you do, you just down tune the arm a little bit. Then you're gonna have the same equal force in both up and down pretty much. So, but since it's so quick to tune, I would probably tune it to have the lens sit at the height for that particular shot. Just to like make as least work as possible for you. So I think there's no right or wrong way to do it. Like if you want to have it horizontal, that's fine. If you want to down tune it a bit, that works equally well. So it's just going to be a matter of
how you get in the end stops also.
Yeah, it's not, as long as the two sections are in sync, you can ride it in whatever angle you like. Doesn't matter.
So James is also happy. Great, thanks. Thank you, James.
Like happy guys.
So okay, the next one, what we get here. How the xARM Neo perform during fast movements or the sudden directional changes?
So you're talking about oscillation, or you're talking about like
I
what we call kickback, because
kickback,
they're different things. The Neo works a lot better than previous one because of the rigidity of the arm itself. So let me put the slide on. It's actually it's an interesting question, and we spent a lot of time dealing with this. So a lot of like oscillation and like overshoot and kickback, etc. Generally, it doesn't have to do that much with the springs. In our experience, it mostly has to do with the structure of the geometry, and especially the flex. Let me take this one. So let's see if this is visible. So a lot of like, first of all, like one thing we paid a lot of like thought into is not like adding any kind of like hard stops on the rubber bumpers. We already had it on the previous xARM, where you have like very nice end stops. We even improved this on the Neo, making even like a softer like stopping motion. Also with the link bracket, we changed the design of this one. So like in like sudden motion, you don't have anything like clicking through down to the socket block, where you can feel like any kind of like motion traveling through onto the sled. So we spent a lot of time reducing friction, where things like that might happen in sudden motion, where you like have a rapid shot and you can feel all the sections.
You can also isolate the hip movements from the operator.
Yeah, exactly, like everything. So the downside, removing the friction all across as much as possible, can make what people might experience or call as a kickback, where the gimbal handle doesn't want to sit straight. So it overshoots, like I can fold it like this. It want to go off center.
Yeah.
So it doesn't want to stay. So we spent a lot of time with this. It won't work if you don't have any friction break at all. The best arm we tested so far regarding this is actually the Pro arm, where if you leave the gimbal handle, it just stays in position. But that's because on the Pro you have a bit of friction in the arm post, even though it's like there's no break in it. It always like has a small friction there. That's why it stays. If you open ours totally, because it's like free spinning, you will have nothing going on in like an operator position if I stand like this. But you will have, this kickback will happen if I have the two sections folded differently. So towards out here, it goes towards the center. If I fold it closely, like in an extreme V shape, it overshoots instead. And that has nothing to do with rapid motion or anything. It's just how the geometry sits, because you have the spring, just the spring here acts in a certain direction, and that will affect the gimbal handle. But I can tell this one, as it's designed right now, it's like there's like no force on it. It just like stays there. If you want to move it with a finger, no problem. So yeah, I think that's a pretty interesting test for a lot of the arms to check this behavior.
Yeah.
If it want to move into any kind of like direction with force, you certainly know there's flexing happening in the arm. Then the sections twist, and it changes the angle on the arm post, and that's what leads to this behavior. So, but you can only try it if you have like arm post that really free runs. If you have it locked, it doesn't matter how much flex you have. It's just gonna stay. That's another thing we do, like for test. If you boom up and down the arm, like extremely slow, we pay very close attention that this section immediately follows what's happening here. That tells us we don't have any friction happening between these two segments. So if you boom up and down very, very slowly, and you can immediately tell there's action going on the section closest to the operator, you know you have an arm that doesn't produce a lot of friction. If you have an arm where you can boom the second section, but not the one closest to the operator, you know, like, okay, there's something going on here that produces friction that doesn't allow the spring to move, or you have other issues. So, yeah,
interesting.
We looked at those kind of things.
So now I'm really curious to try it out next week. So.
Yeah, we looked at those things like very intense.
Nice.
Because you can always like start compensating for stuff, introducing small like tension mechanism and stuff like that that minimize certain problems. But I just find I don't think operators want to poke around too much with settings on the arm, especially. There's so much else going on. So like having to think about small adjustment leading to a certain behavior on the arm.
So the best arm is that arm that you don't feel while operating.
Yeah, you don't want to feel the arm, but it also should you just want to tune it and like.
And that's it.
Don't have to worry about like, oh, did I do this adjustment now, or should I change something? I mean, you have enough going on with
That's true.
with so much else. So we really wanted to simplify it as far as we possibly could.
Nice. So now we have two questions. Did we get this two questions from, I think, 4 or 5 different guys? So the first one, will be there a trade-in program for operators who recently purchased the old xARM?
Yes, we looked into that and we could not make that happen. No. No matter what we did, the trade-in price, where we still could make a small profit on the new arm, would be so low it didn't make any sense for an operator to do this trade-in instead of like selling it on the second-hand market.
Okay.
So especially if you're in a country outside of Europe, for etc., and we can't like magically make import duties disappear,
Yeah, for sure.
because it's a new product. It just like we've been discussing it for half a year now, and there's no way we can like unfortunately make that happen, even though I think it would be a really good idea. The economy side is just not like working, and it would be the operator that lose money in the end. So I definitely think selling the previous xARM on a second-hand market, it's a much better option for if you're interested in upgrading. So to say. Yeah.
So the second one, I think this question we get 6 times.
Oh,
are you planning to release a new vest soon?
Not soon. Yeah. Mostly, or not mostly, but after the xARM, we do have the next on our product in our timeline is a new X-Reach based on the Neo.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the closest product we're working on, but we're also working on other products. And a new vest is not like, it's in our head, but it doesn't have like doesn't have
it's not
like
a priority in the moment. So
yeah, it's not even in a prototype stage. Okay. Mostly because making a vest has been extremely expensive once you like start getting into it. So it's not a product where you can like release a new version every year or two. It has a longer cycle for sure. Yeah. Sorry.
They're still there. So we lost now Peter. Let's see if we're getting back. So has somebody other questions here? So we can't really buffer the time. Peter is back. Peter, we lost you.
Yeah.
So now.
Incoming phone call. That's the worst.
Perfect.
I didn't know how to block that one. Let's see. Call again. Yeah. While I poke around, you can hit me with a new question. There we go. Yeah.
So ask already somebody if somebody has another question. Not in the moment. So let's see what we have from the old ones. So I think that's the last question. So when will the xARM Neo Lite be available, and in which markets will be launched first? I think worldwide, or
it will be launched worldwide. I think we have pre-orders from pretty much every corner. So yeah. I know last I checked, we did 3 batches of 25 arms per batch. We only expected in this kind of like how the market is right now. We didn't expect more than 25 arms, but it seems like the interest is quite high, even though it's bad times for everyone. So we did 3 batches, and those will pretty much, the first batch will be delayed a few weeks. So I'm gonna notify everyone about that tomorrow. it's gonna be delayed 2-3 weeks, but that won't affect the second or third batch. So I would say early April, pretty much everyone will have their new Neo. Yeah, that's the time sheet. Yeah, the Neo and the Neo Air. But I think the third batch is there's not many arms left, if I remember correctly. I didn't I didn't check sales, but I think there's only like a handful of units left, and then we need to make a new batch, and I haven't scheduled that one. So in terms of
the exit price for the Neo and the Neo Air in the moment, so just to have it here.
Oh, price question. Sorry, I don't know.
Important one.
Yeah, I'm forbidden to talk about sales prices because I do all the purchasing, and I
we can get the info from the website.
Yeah,
so
I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I know getting into the pre-order program is it's a good deal.
Yeah.
Because
so anybody has interest, so just put it in the email, and directly to Peter or to the CSS-Forum, and we will forward it directly to the FlowCine. I think that's the best way.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So we have a couple other questions now. So from James, I think that's depending the West. I'd like to see the new toolless front mount socket block, but can't wait towards the end. Okay.
Are we talking about the new?
This guy. Okay.
This time.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah. Yeah. So the adjustment for the socket block is pretty much a grub screw with a knob. But we had requests from operators, some of them preferring to use an Allen key. So what we've done is you can remove the screw that the knob sits, take it out.
Okay.
And you can disassemble it very easily.
That's cool.
Like so. Take it out. Out comes the pieces. And I made a new Allen version that will be included at least for all the pre-orders. So now you can use the Allen key instead.
And it looks like a fine tweet, so you can adjust it with weight on it.
Yeah. So now you have both options. It's very easy. Most of you, I know you prefer the knob to have it like toolless, but enough of you asked for being able to do with the Allen key. So yeah.
But that's a great solution. I like it.
We did it as well. Yeah. It's very easy.
So there's a question for the recording Q&A. So all of the Q&As will be posted on the CSS-Forum and each group, so FlowCine or RE or other thing. So I think I will upload the question about the recordings. I will upload the Q&As today evening or tomorrow lately, so you can see there. And there will be also in 2 weeks, also on the YouTube channel of CSS-Forum. That's the question. And other one, hi everyone, any demos coming soon in Europe, excluding BSC?
Yes, we are working on it. We don't have anything specifically scheduled because the guys I've been talking to doing this, they're all busy with the BSC show and everyone is just focused on that. So we're gonna release like schedule. I know Germany specifically, we have a lot of interest there.
The Expo in Gilles, I think, or with
and I also know we have, even though we were to Paris a while ago, we have a lot of like French operators missing out, want to try it. I'm also working on making something happening in Spain. And then in Eastern Europe as well. So
Yes.
yeah, we're trying to do it. But as I said before, if you're very interested in trying out the ARM and you have local operators wanting the same thing, let us know, and I'm sure we can arrange something. If there's enough interest, there's no big deal coming down and have you tried the ARM.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So I think that's it. So maybe one question. No, it's no questions more there. So I'm happy.
Okay.
Hopefully you guys are happy.
Yeah,
It was
I
really
hope
interesting.
it was. Yeah, I hope I could at least give you some information.
I personally am now really curious to test it next week, definitely. So
yeah, well, you're welcome to.
So thank you all for joining today's Q&A, and thank you, Peter, for being with us. And
Thank
if
you,
you
guys.
have any further questions, feel free to reach out via email, and I will forward everything to Peter. And also don't forget to check out our upcoming Q&A sessions and also to register at the CSS-Forum. So there you can also get all of the recordings of the Q&As. So thanks again, and see you next time.
Perfect. Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.